You are standing in the shield wall. Rain has soaked through your wool cloak hours ago. Your shield arm is shaking, not from cold but from the weight of holding position since dawn. The line beside you has broken. Men are running. You can still make it. 10 steps back, into the tree line, and you live to see tonight. But your father's name is tied to this moment. Your son will carry whatever you do next. Every man in this village will know, by winter, whether you held the line or ran from it. This is not a battle for land. Not really. It is a battle for what people will say about you when you are gone. For most of Viking history, combat was not just about survival. It was about being watched, judged, and remembered. By the end of this video, you will understand the unwritten code that decided who was called a hero, who was called a coward, and why some men chose death over the shame of walking away. To understand what made a Viking warrior honorable, you have to understand what he was afraid of. Not death, something worse. The word was drengskapr. It meant something close to honorable conduct, but it was bigger than a single act of bravery. It was a whole way of carrying yourself, tested again and again, in small moments as much as in battle. A drenger kept his word once it was given, even when keeping it cost him everything. He faced an equal enemy openly, weapon in hand, never from ambush, never from hiding. He protected those under his care, guests, kin, dependents, even at cost to himself. And when he lost without complaint. Whining about defeat was, in its own way, its own kind of shame. This was not written law. There was no book of rules nailed to a longhouse door. It lived in the sagas, in the stories told and retold around the fire, in Njáls saga, in Egils saga, where the fate of a man's name mattered as much as the fate of his body. A warrior who stood his ground when the line broke was not just surviving a battle. He was building something that would outlast him. Every witness in that shield wall was a future storyteller. Every choice was material for what his grandchildren would hear about him generations after his body was in the ground. This is why a Viking warrior would sometimes choose a fight he could not win. Losing was survivable. Some things were not. Honor in this world was not a feeling. It was a record, and everyone was always writing it. Now picture the opposite. Not death, not defeat. Something the sagas treat as far more dangerous than either. The Vikings had a word for this too, need. It was not simple insult, the kind traded and forgotten between neighbors. It was a formal, public accusation of cowardice or unmanliness, and once it was spoken aloud, in the right way, in front of witnesses, it could not be unsaid. It attached itself to a man like a brand burned into skin. A carved pole could carry nith. A verse could carry it, spreading from mouth to mouth long after the man who spoke it first was gone. A single sentence, said at the right moment in front of the right people, could carry it. And once it landed, a man standing in his community could collapse, regardless of what he had done in battle the week before, regardless of every oath he had ever kept. This is the part that is hard to feel from here, in a world of second chances and clean slates and quiet reinvention. In that world, reputation was not something you managed from a distance. It was something you were, in the eyes of everyone around you. Lose it, and you did not simply feel embarrassed for a season. You lost your place at the table, your marriage prospects, your children's prospects, inherited like a debt they never agreed to owe. Men who carried the weight of need sometimes chose exile rather than live inside a community that now saw them as less than a man. Historians studying Norse warrior culture, including Neil Price, have pointed to how central this fear of social death was, arguably more central than the fear of physical death, in shaping Viking behavior both in and out of combat. Death ended a man. Need could erase him while he was still breathing, and leave him walking among the living as a ghost of his own name. Shame like this did not stay contained to one man. It spread, the way a stain spreads through wool, reaching everyone tied to him by blood. A father's cowardice could follow his sons into every negotiation, every marriage arrangement, every dispute over land for a generation. A family's standing in Viking Age society was not measured only in silver or ships. It was measured in the accumulated weight of every honorable act and every failure, carried by everyone who shared that name. This is why the sagas linger so long on questions of reputation. Njáls saga and Egils saga are full of men calculating, sometimes coldly, what a single choice in battle would cost their entire household for decades. A duel refused, a retreat taken, a debt of honor left unpaid. These were not private matters settled and forgotten. They were public ledgers, read and reread by an entire community. The most severe consequence was outlawry, exile from the community entirely, sometimes for a fixed term, sometimes for life. An outlawed man lost the protection of law itself. Anyone could kill him without consequence, and no one was obligated to avenge him. To be cut out of the story your community was telling about itself, that was a kind of death long before the body followed. So, was retreat always shameful? Not always. This is where the code gets more human and more complicated. Fleeing from an unequal fight, several men against one, an ambush with no chance of a fair stand, was not automatically cowardice. A commander ordering a tactical withdrawal to save his remaining men could still be acting within the bounds of honor. The code was not asking Vikings to be reckless. It was asking them to be legible. Retreat had to be readable, by witnesses, as a reasonable choice, not a panicked one. The line was drawn somewhere else entirely, in single combat, in the sworn duel known as hólmganga, and in any moment where a man had explicitly staked his name on standing his ground. Here, walking away was not a tactical decision. It was a public statement about what kind of man you were, read by everyone present. Picture that warrior again, the one in the shield wall. His line has broken. 10 steps back means his body survives the day. But everyone will remember which choice he made, and his sons will inherit whichever one it was. This is why some men chose to die, not from recklessness, from arithmetic. A dead man's name could still be honored at his own funeral. A living coward's name could not. We live in a world of second chances. Careers survive scandal. Reputations get rebuilt in a single apology video. That is not better or worse than the Viking world. It is simply different. They lived by a harder, clearer arithmetic. Your word was your worth, and everyone was watching. Maybe that is what draws us back to these stories. Not the axes, not the ships. The clarity of knowing exactly what would make you a man worth remembering. If this code of honor fascinates you as much as it fascinates us, hit like and drop a comment. What would you have done in that shield wall, hold or run? And if you want to keep walking this world with us, subscribe and step into the next chapter of the Viking Age.